Welcome. This is Jocelyn Hunter, Senior Director of Communications here at Columbia Lighthouse for the Blind, bringing to you all a very special edition of Where Are We Now? Joining today is the founder and CEO of a really cool, useful technology called RightHear. Welcome, everyone, Idan Meir. Idan, welcome.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here. Thank you so much. Pleasure to be here.
Also, a round of welcome and gratitude as you are a new Columbia Lighthouse for the Blind advisory board member.
I am very proud of that. Thank you for inviting me there as well. It's a great privilege being among incredible people that I already had the opportunity to meet at least some of them.
Thank you. Yes, and they are equally excited to have your expertise amongst the advisory board. And again, really happy that you could be here for Where Are We Now? Well, let's get started. RightHear, that is an interesting name for a very, again, unique, useful technology. What inspired you to create and introduce this technology? What was the genesis?
First of all, just for the listeners, we write right here as like hearing. So RightHear, right here, like hearing. And the idea is to allow people to hear where they are. So we're living in a world where there are signs everywhere we go. There are also Braille signs actually in a lot of places. I wouldn't say everywhere, but close to that. You can find Braille signs, in elevators, public restrooms, meeting rooms, and that's all across the country. It doesn't matter if you're here in DC area or Chicago or anywhere else. You'll be able to find signs and Braille signs specifically. It doesn't matter if it's a small restaurant or a big, airport. And a few years ago, we asked ourselves, what if these signs could speak? And maybe to remind our listeners, while there are so many Braille signs out there, about 90% of the blind community cannot read Braille at all. So that leaves us with about 10% of the blind community who can actually read it. And for them, finding these signs a lot of times is also a challenge because you need to know where the sign is in order to read it. And in the past 3 years, specifically since COVID, even if you know to read Braille, and even if you've been lucky to find a sign, it is not necessarily that you want to touch it anymore, right? Because it's a public surface. So we thought again, how wonderful would it be if you could hear the signs around you in your own language? All right, I'm coming from Israel, so my native language is Hebrew. In your own language, in your own pace. Some of us would like to hear it slower than the others, and others might want to hear it much faster. So yeah, that's the idea. We asked ourselves this question, what if signs could speak, about 6 years ago? And this question actually got to our minds because I have horrible orientation skills. I'm this friend who always get lost and always, turn right when it's obviously that you need to turn left. And we thought if we'll be able to solve, my orientation challenge to those that have even more severe orientation challenges, you ultimately will be able to solve it to everyone. That's how we kind of got into this journey. It's a fascinating journey. At the time, I used to say, when people ask me, how you got to this? I used to say, it was an accident. And today I'm saying it was a lot of luck. It was no accident. There was a lot of luck getting into this world of really helping people finding their way around, providing them with the independence they deserve, as well as helping businesses with their objective and their goals. And in the end of the day, bringing more people to their stores and to their facilities. So it's a lot of luck around that.
Idan, I like what you said, how you make signs speak. That is very fascinating.
The signs are not really the one that, although we call it this way, but the signs are not really the one who talks. It's the app. To explain a little bit about how the app or the system works, we have basically three main components. One is an app. It's a free app, mobile app for iPhone and Android with no sign in. So it's completely private as well. We won't ask you your name or email or anything like that. That's the first component. The second component, it's beacons, which is Bluetooth devices that we install at the facility. That allows us to identify the user location in an indoor environment where there is no GPS, of course. And thirdly, there's a whole cloud portal, which allows us to control, edit, and manage all the audio descriptions that later on our users will be able to hear through their app. So again, it's not a talking sign that it used to be maybe in the 80s or so, but it's a new version of that, if you will, that speaks to you through your smartphone, through your mobile app, again, in your own language and in your own pace. We've been doing that, again, in order to help the community to acquire better orientation and being more independent, not just the blind, visually impaired community, but there's a lot of other people with orientation challenges, could be cognitive or even mental. And we've been doing that, as I said before, for about 6 years in over 2,400 locations worldwide, and keep on growing.
That's tremendous, especially as we approach National Disability Employment Awareness Month, and we rally around our community and other people with disabilities, specifically in October, but all year round. Having a technology that really addresses the need for enhanced orientation for our community of people who are blind or visually impaired and others with various disabilities. That's really important.
Absolutely. And that reminds me, Adi is a good friend of mine. He's a software engineer, is a developer for mobile apps, and is almost a full stack developer. And he's also happened to be completely blind from birth. And when Adi joined us in our early days, I remember when asking him, what's the biggest challenge for you to work with us, to help us as a developer or as a strategist developer? His answer was finding the restrooms or finding the elevators. So for the employers here in the audience, there's a lot of focus in the past few years on accessibility, mainly on the digital sphere, your website, your documents that should be accessible. I hope that most of the listeners here are aware of that, but there was not enough of attention to the built environment, to the office itself. How easy is it to actually find the elevators or the restrooms or anything else? That's where RightHear's come in. That's where our focus is. And we're very proud, again, in being able to build a solution that is, I like to think about it almost a no-brainer from all aspects, from an operations standpoint to the cost, to be honest. To the cost standpoint, it's also a very cost-effective, affordable solution for facilities to have. And the goal, again, the idea behind it is to provide the independence in as many locations as possible, not just in specific offices or specific arenas, but really wherever you go. Back to the Braille signage I gave the example before, we really wanted to be as ubiquitous as possible.
And as we continue to hone in on the function of orientation, I can't help but think of orientation and mobility, which is one of CLB's programs and services. Right. Our department of experts within the sphere of orientation and mobility met with you and your team recently in our Silver Spring office. Could you tell us about that experience and the mapping of that office?
Yes, absolutely. First of all, it was a wonderful meeting. We've learned, we talked about our name earlier. One of the reasons we even called ourselves RightHear is a self-reminder that the right thing to do is to hear and actually listening to the experts in the field. That's how we got to you, and that's how we got to your team. Not just telling them about what we're doing, but also learning from them what is needed and what they can teach us about orientation and mobility in general. It was a wonderful conversation with a lot of great feedback on our app and in general. It's concluded with really mapping the office there in Silver Spring. It didn't take us too long. In order to make as many locations as possible, we really did streamline the process. We usually take the floor plans or the evacuation plan of that office or that space. We'll learn it a little bit when we come back with recommendations of where to place the beacons. I don't remember the exact amount for Silver Spring, but it was not more than 10, if I'm not wrong. And that was the main points of interest at that area. We put in all the audio descriptions. Happy, if you'd like to elaborate on the audio description work itself, because there's some challenge there as well. How do you describe the environment for a blind or visually impaired person, right? What do you include in? What do you put out? Is it feet? Is it meters? Like how do you structure this audio description into it? So there's a lot of know-how that we've been able to develop. We're also working with international standards around it, like Wayfinder. But ultimately, we've turned that locations accessible, and we're focusing in the coming month on the DC, Maryland, Virginia area. There's a few activities that we're doing on that part. I'm happy to elaborate, but I think it's mainly boils down to finding strategic partners. And I'm so glad and proud that we found Columbia Lighthouse for the Blind as a strategic ally here in the area. And I'm super excited where, what's ahead of us.
Well, thank you, Eden. We share that enthusiasm for our partnership and the resourcefulness of this technology. And again, for everyone listening, this technology is available to consumers on iPhone, Android, and it's free.
Correct. Yep. It's completely free. It's 26 different languages.
26.
Yep. It's 26. The most common languages in the world. I would say a few more things. One, it's completely private, completely anonymous. Jocelyn, we've all heard with Facebook or other tools, they're collecting data on us and we are becoming the product. That's not the case here. We do not collect any personal data. We're not even asking for it from our users, so we don't have any way to do that. Our business model, while it's free for the user and it's completely private to the user, our business model is charging facilities for this service. And just like facilities, paying for elevators or ramps or anything else that comes with accessibility in mind, similarly goes here. And I must say, we're kind of living in an age where some businesses, some facilities think about, and some people in general think about this as a feature for their facility. Okay. I generally believe that it's not a feature, it's a right. It's just people's right. Looking at the ADA, that's what the requirement is, providing equal experience for everyone in the built environment. The reason we have so many Braille signs is in order to support that thesis, and we can definitely do more. So I invite our listeners to download the app, playing with it outdoors, indoors, and wherever they are. And as maybe I'll mention, if I may, Jocelyn, about the unlock.
Please do. Yes, I'm curious. What is this unlock feature?
Yeah, so this is exciting for me. It's a feature we've been working on for quite a while. It's currently in beta only for people in the DC, Maryland, Virginia area only. So nobody else around the world can try it. So if you are in the area, please give it a try. We do need your feedback. The idea behind the unlock feature, which can be found in the main screen of the app, is to work together with the community in order to turn locations into more accessible environments. What we found is that when a business is approached by a user, by a person with orientation challenges, or by a blind person, for example, the likelihood for that business to actually do something with it and to accommodate is so much higher than if we just do it directly. So we wanted to make it simpler and easier, really streamline the process for our users to contact facilities. What this unlock feature does, once you click on this unlock, like unlocking locations, you'll find a list of businesses in the area. It's currently available in 8 cities here in the area, which you can find it there. But you can find these businesses in whatever city you are. And then the app will ask you if you want to ask them for accessibility. And if you do, it will basically open up your email. And it's already have a pre-programmed email tailor-made to that business.
Wow.
Yes, we're putting some AI behind it with ChatGPT, and it's obviously easy for you to edit. You can change the message to that, this email to that facility, or completely writing it from scratch for yourself. But we really do want to encourage people to contact businesses, not just us. It takes a village, as I always say. It just takes a village. And I'm super excited about it because for me, it's building up a movement. So
it certainly is. It really gives the tool to advocate for the community, for our region, for enhanced accessibility.
Precisely that. And advocate is the right word here. And thank you for mentioning that. I know it's a big focus also for the FAP program, which we might discuss later. But we really do need the community to advocate for itself and ask for this. I always say that I have this habit wherever I meet with a blind or visually impaired person in a restaurant or a coffee shop, I always ask them to ask for the braille menu. And I usually get the answer, "Oh, come on, there's no way they have it. It's okay. I can read it myself." Yeah, I know they probably don't have it, but that's exactly why we need to ask for it. Because if we won't ask for it, they will never have it as well. So it's really boils down to asking, to advocating, to educating. And I hope this feature will help with that, at least a little.
It sounds incredibly useful and right there at your fingertips.
Yep. Yep. Exactly. So I invite you again, if you're in the DC, Maryland, Virginia area, download the RightHear app. Hopefully there will be the links in the footnotes, but it's really easy to find it. RightHear at the App Store or Google Play. And then you'll be able to find the unlock feature at the very first main screen.
And speaking of FAB, CLB is extremely excited, looking forward to hosting an upcoming class of Foundations of Adjustment to Blindness adult participants. Again, that is commonly referred to as FAB, F-A-B, and those participants will receive critical knowledge on adjusting to vision loss under the direction of our Associate Director of Rehabilitation Services, Annie. And that program is hosted in the Silver Spring office. And thanks to you, Idan, your team at RightHear, those participants and future participants will learn firsthand the ability and the strength of this technology, because you have equipped that space in Silver Spring where the FAT program meets. Absolutely. With your technology. This is exciting.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, back to the point where we really do want to work with the community, like hand in hand, in order to advocate for this, increase the awareness. My wishful thinking that in a few years from now, it will become obvious that you need to have audio format signage at your facility. It will become just obvious, just like it's obvious today that there should be a ramp there, right? It's like no business is proud. Hey, look at us, we have a ramp at the entrance to our restaurant. It's like, of course you do. That's expected, right? That's the norm. That's the standard. That's what we're all expecting from that business. I really do hope that within a few years, we'll be able to create together with the community, so that will become the new norm, and that's what we're working on these days.
If I'm a business leader listening to Where Are We Now, and they recognize the impact that your technology is making, they recognize the need for greater inclusion, accessibility within this Washington, D.C. region and beyond, how do they connect? How do they connect with you and your team to obtain the technology, the beacons? How does that conversation begin?
That's a fabulous question. So thank you for that. Super simple, really. It's contacting us is just through our website, through my personal email. It's Idan, IDAN, at RightHear HEAR.com, or through, again, support, or through our email. Easy to find us also on social media. Again, hopefully the contact details will also be in the footnote. But once you contact us, the process is really quick, is really simple, very straightforward. The whole system is standalone system, so there's zero integrations with the facility systems. We don't even need to have the Wi-Fi. We don't need to have electricity there. With nothing. Oh, it's a completely,
that is simple.
And this is important, Jocelyn, because we do always have this IT conversation on security, because that's how the process usually goes. But they always, like, in the first 5 minutes, talking about, basically there's no risk to our systems. Like, yeah, we know this is how we develop it. We don't want to have any risk to your system. So from an IT perspective, very straightforward. From a privacy perspective, as I said before, there's no personal data collected. So it's really is no-brainer on that side. From an operation perspective, we usually ask for the floor plan, the evacuation plan, which all businesses basically has. Some of them are obviously on the wall. We ask for that. Mapping it, take us sometimes a day or two. We're not charging for that. That helps us to identify or to determine the scope of the project. We've been working with all of McDonald's restaurants in Israel, Pizza Hut, but also with big airports and hospitals. So in order to understand the cost, we do need to understand the scope of the project.
Okay.
I would say that in any case, that's a very affordable, reasonable accommodation to have. And again, based on that call, we can and mapping, we can get back with a proposal fairly quickly. And the goal is really installation also can be done a lot of times by the facility. We send you a package, you stick a few stickers on the wall, and that's it. In other cases, we can come over and do the work for you. As I said, the goal is to have it everywhere we go. So we had to simplify. I always say it was super complicated to build something that eventually is so simple to adopt. It's just a matter of awareness. So if you're listening to this, please contact us. If you understand the importance of inclusion and accessibility, and you want to be ahead of the curve. We mentioned ADA and reasonable accommodation. Being ahead of the curve is important here because it is a discussion that is being done in all forums right now, that there's a higher expectations from the built environment, a higher level of accessibility from signage and wayfinding. So it's absolutely an opportunity being ahead of the curve and doing it before it become the norm and the obvious.
Thank you for that thorough overview of getting connected. And as again, we are here on the near eve of National Disability Employment Awareness Month. For everyone listening, as a reminder, October is a special month within the disability community. It is National Disability Employment Awareness Month. And RightHear has a really big goal, a moonshot goal, some would describe. You might describe it. What is that goal, and how can we be a part of helping you to reach the goal, surpass your goal?
Yes. Thank you for this question. So yeah, we're talking it's 2023, almost end of the year, and we currently in almost 2,500 locations globally. We do want to have within 10 years 100,000 locations. So that's a moonshot there. We believe that it's possible. It's a matter of, again, finding the early adopters here in the US. Most of our locations at the moment is primarily in Israel and Europe. We're bringing a valid concept that's been proven with pretty big, companies already. Some of them are American companies. Microsoft, their facilities, not all of them yet, but many of them on the other side of the world already had that. So it's really easy, takes the first to adopt it, to get it, so others will follow. And as I said before, it become the new standard. So yeah, it's an aggressive or a very challenging objective that we have, but I'm very optimistic by nature. And also because I see the process, I see the pace of our growth in the past year, 2 years, and in the past 6 years in a longer perspective. And for those listening, please contact us. Give it a try. Let us know your feedback. We're doing trials all the time, and we are focusing on, again, DMV area. So we prioritize that.
Well, Idan, thank you and your team for prioritizing this Washington, D.C. region. And again, you listeners out there, Columbia Lighthouse for the Blind, we're headquartered here in the nation's capital, Washington, D.C., and we serve the entire Washington, D.C. region. And we are happy to bring this special edition of Where Are We Now as we recognize this valuable technology.
And maybe another note, Jocelyn, for those listeners are saying, well, we have only a small restaurant. We don't need that. It's probably better fit for the big, hospitals and airports. The reality is actually the opposite. We're actually now focusing on small environments rather than the big ones. And the reason for that is because we want to build the confidence with our community. For me, back to our origin story, I have horrible orientation skills. So guess what? If you put me in a big complex airport and I am sighted, there's good chances I get lost. But on the other hand, if you'll put me in a relatively small environment, I can do pretty well. So we do want to build the confidence with our users in order to find their way around, understand that it is possible beyond that. And therefore, even if you have a small facility, no matter what type it is, give us a call and let's explore it together.
Well, Idan, thank you. And your team at RightHear, Darren, thank you for your outreach, for recognizing Columbia Lighthouse for the Blind and the entire Washington, D.C. community. And we look forward to collaborating to get this message out to our community and to stakeholders, again, for the value and the usefulness of this technology.
And last words from my end, Jocelyn. Thank you. And Preston and Tony and the whole incredible team you have there. If there are any startups that are listening to us, contact CLB. They have an incredible support. And I cannot be appreciative enough and express it here. I really do want to thank you again, Jocelyn, Preston, Tony, and the whole team for helping us bringing our vision into reality almost on a weekly or even daily basis. So this is, do not take for granted at all.
Thank you. Thank you for those kind words. We wish you well, and we look forward to our continued work together.